Welcome back, everyone. You ready to do a deep dive with me?
Let's dive in.
Perfect. Today, we're taking a trip into the world of Mark Twain with his
Ooh,
autobiography.
I love it.
Now, we're not just gonna, follow a straight timeline or anything like that,
No, no.
but we're really gonna try to get inside his head
Yeah.
and his experiences and kind of
Of
see
the world he lived in, right?
exactly, see how those things,
I mean, he lived through a really interesting time.
shaped his work and made him,
Yes.
I mean, both a product of his time,
Oh, absolutely.
but also this, timeless voice.
Totally. And you know what's so interesting?
Yeah.
Is how he starts off the whole thing
Really?
by comparing his birth
Oh, wow.
in Florida, Missouri to Shakespeare.
Okay, so he's already setting himself up there.
Right. I mean, it's just like,
Like, I'm going to be a big deal.
I'm like, get ready, folks.
Yeah.
I'm important.
Right out of the gate.
Immediately sets the tone for the whole autobiography.
So tell me a little bit about this Florida, Missouri.
Well, it was tiny,
Okay.
like really small.
Okay.
2 streets.
Oh, wow.
Mostly just log cabins.
Like a village.
Yeah, totally a village. And Twain,
Yeah.
with his characteristic humor, says he increased the population by a whole 1%.
Just by being born,
Yeah, just by showing up.
which, I mean, is funny,
Totally.
but also kind of tells you he knows
He knows how to play with the reader.
he's aware of himself
Exactly.
and his place in the world.
And that he's not in for a stuffy history lesson.
Exactly. He's like,
Like,
come
yeah.
along for the ride.
Totally.
This is going to be fun.
It's going to be a ride.
So we're in Florida, Missouri.
Yep.
What happens? What does he talk about?
Well, he talks about his uncle's store, which was this central hub
Mm-hmm.
of the village.
Okay.
It's like this microcosm of rural life.
Okay.
And he gives this incredibly vivid description.
Oh, wow. So paint us a picture here.
Yeah, you've got cloth,
Okay.
tools,
Uh-huh.
whiskey barrels.
That's interesting.
Right. And get this, every male customer. Really.
Got a free drink.
That's just how they did things back then.
That was the custom.
What
Can you imagine?
So what's that tell us about?
What does that tell us?
Yeah, about the role of
Yeah.
alcohol in daily life. I mean,
A whole history lesson.
yeah.
Disguised as a funny little anecdote.
Wow. Yeah. So he's already layering this in,
Right.
like the humor and
Yeah.
the social commentary,
Mhm.
but in a way that's not preachy.
Not at all.
He's just telling a story.
Exactly. And it's not just the setting.
Right.
He brings the characters to life, too.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about some of them.
Well, he talks about his uncle,
Okay.
whom he obviously adored.
Okay.
And then there's Aunt Hannah,
Okay.
who was an enslaved woman.
Okay.
Now, according to local legend, she was over 1,000 years old,
1,000 years old.
over 1,000 years old, and had talked to Moses.
Whoa. Hold on.
Wow.
It makes you think, right?
It really does.
Here's young Twain
Yeah.
soaking up these stories, absorbing it all.
In a world where slavery is just an accepted reality,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder how those early experiences,
Shaped his views later on.
shaped his views on race
Right.
and injustice later in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's
So, I mean, it's a thread that
that's-
runs through so much of his work.
Yeah.
This grappling
Yeah.
with human nature, the contradictions of society.
It's all right there.
You can see those seeds being planted right there in his childhood.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Wow. And speaking of childhood,
Okay.
he paints this almost idyllic picture
Yeah.
of life on his uncle's farm.
Yeah.
Like delicious food, freedom to roam,
Yeah.
swings.
No, the swings?
Where about the swings?
Well, they were apparently so rickety
Oh.
that his cousins were constantly breaking their arms.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so maybe not so idyllic after all.
Right. So there's this
Yeah.
juxtaposition of
Yeah.
this beautiful imagery,
Yeah. The surface. Yeah.
but then the reality
beneath. Yeah.
lurking beneath.
And it's not just the swings, it's like the doctor
Oh,
situation.
the doctor.
Yeah, tell me about
So he got paid $25 a year
$25 a year
for the whole family,
for all their medical care.
for everyone.
Wow.
Can you imagine healthcare like that today?
I can't even fathom it.
No,
I mean, it speaks volumes about
it really does.
what life was like back then.
The realities of rural life
Yeah.
back then.
You had to be tough.
Oh, yeah,
You had to be resourceful,
absolutely.
and you had to have a sense of humor.
Right. Because otherwise, how would you get through it?
Yeah. And that's what's so great is
Yeah.
he always finds the humor.
Always.
Even when he's talking about
Yeah.
being sick as a kid,
Yeah.
he asks his mom,
Right.
were you afraid I wouldn't live? And she says,
No, afraid you would?
oh my gosh.
I love that.
That's so Twain.
It's so Twain.
So good.
Finding the humor in the darkest of times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that ability to find the light in the darkness
Totally.
that makes his writing so enduring, so human.
Totally. So we've got this like kind of farm life
Yeah.
happening, but he also talks about going to school.
Oh, yeah. The one-room schoolhouse.
Tell me about that.
It was full of characters
Oh, I bet.
and stories just waiting to be written.
You can totally see that.
Right.
Like how that would influence his later work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of his characters and situations feel drawn from life,
Totally.
from those formative years in that tiny schoolhouse.
So it's not just the stories his family is telling him.
Right.
It's also like the people he's seeing,
The people he meets.
the dynamics,
Yeah.
all of that.
It's all fodder for his imagination.
And speaking of formative experiences,
Yeah.
who could forget
Oh, this is a good one.
the story of Twain praying for gingerbread?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this hilarious
Hilarious.
and so relatable
Oh, so relatable.
anecdote about childhood faith.
Yeah, that moment
That's when
when
reality hits.
reality starts to clash with belief.
Yeah, you think you know how the world works,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh,
Doesn't quite work out that way.
yeah, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
And he doesn't shy away from those awkward moments.
No. He embraces them.
Yeah.
He's like, I've been there too.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Exactly. And it's that vulnerability.
That honesty.
Yeah, that willingness to poke fun at himself.
That self-awareness.
Makes him so endearing.
Totally.
He's not afraid to show us his flaws,
Yeah.
his mistakes, his moments of doubt.
And in doing so, he makes us feel
Less alone.
less alone in our own imperfections.
Exactly. We're all just human rights,
Right.
messing things up.
And those imperfections
Uh-huh.
are on full display in his teenage years,
For sure.
especially when he describes this
Go tell me about it.
disastrous attempt at playing a bear
With a bear.
in a play.
Oh, yes. This is a classic.
Let's just say
I'm sure the audience got more than they bargained for.
they got a show,
They did.
but not the one they were expecting.
A little different than what was in the program.
And again, he's laughing at himself.
Always.
He's not taking himself too seriously.
Nope.
He's like,
Eh.
look, I mess up too.
He's like, life is messy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just plain ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's okay.
But that's okay.
Yeah, you gotta laugh at yourself.
You got to roll with it.
But of course,
Right.
life's not always a laughing matter.
No, it's not.
And Twain doesn't shy away from that.
Nah.
Like, he talks about seeing a drunkard die in a fire.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
And you can tell it really shook him.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's this reminder that beneath the humor,
Yeah.
that playful exterior,
Huh.
there's this deep well of empathy
Yeah.
and compassion.
He's not just observing life.
Right.
He's feeling it.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Deeply.
And that sensitivity
Yeah.
is also evident in his brief stint with the temperance movement.
The temperance movement.
So for those who don't know,
Yeah.
the temperance movement was all about promoting abstinence from alcohol.
Big social issue back then.
Huge.
Uh-huh.
And Twain's involvement
Yeah.
shows his awareness of like
Yeah.
the problems of his time.
The societal problems of
yeah.
his time, for sure.
And it also hints at
Ooh, hints at
his own struggles
His own struggle.
with vices and self-control.
Yeah, because he wasn't exactly a saint.
No.
Right.
And that honesty,
Yeah.
that willingness to show us the good and the bad,
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
that's what makes him so relatable.
So human.
So human.
Yeah, we all have our vices,
We do.
our struggles.
Our contradictions.
Yeah.
And Twain doesn't hide from that.
He owns it,
He owns it.
which is what makes him so great.
Totally.
It's kind of like he's giving us a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. Like how to work an audience
Exactly. And you can see those same instincts.
at play in his writing.
Yeah, like how he can just make you believe anything.
Totally. Even if it's totally outlandish.
Right.
But you're just along for the ride.
Hook, line, and sinker.
That's Twain.
So then he talks about his love of these minstrel shows.
Oh, yeah. The Minstrel Show.
And he calls them like the original.
Yeah. Like proto stand-up comedy.
Yeah, so you can see that connection
Uh-huh.
to performance.
Oh, totally.
Which, of course,
Yeah. We can't talk about minstrelsy
right,
without acknowledging
the very problematic.
the dark side of it.
Yeah, the racial caricatures.
The stereotypes,
Shit.
very much a product of its time.
Not
Okay.
okay at all.
And it's important to remember that context
Yeah,
right when we're reading this stuff.
absolutely.
We got to look at it
It's-
through,
Through today's lens.
through a critical lens.
Right.
But what's interesting is
Yeah.
Twain, even while enjoying the humor,
Yeah.
seems to sense that something's not quite right.
Like there's this awareness.
That something's a little off.
Like there's the story where he tricks his mother and his Aunt Betsy into going to a minstrel show.
Oh, yeah. He told them it was something else entirely.
Yeah.
Sneaky Twain.
Which is hilarious.
Right.
Like that mischievous side of him.
Oh, yeah. Always up to something.
But it also raises questions about, like,
Yeah.
his own internal karma.
True feelings about race and racism.
Yeah, about the whole thing.
Right, like what was really going through his mind.
Well, what was he really seeing?
Exactly.
And then you have Twain's take on phrenology.
Phrenology.
Which was this pseudoscience.
Yeah, where they try to read your character.
Yeah, from the bumps on your head.
From the bumps on your head.
I mean, can you imagine?
I mean, it sounds ridiculous now.
Totally. But it was a thing.
It was a big thing.
Back then.
People took it seriously.
But Twain saw right through it.
Oh, yeah. He calls it...
What does he say?
The silliest and shallowest pretense that ever came under my notice.
Love
Classic Twain.
Just cutting right through the BS.
Right to the heart of it.
With his words.
Absolutely. And that skepticism.
That critical thinking.
It's what makes his writing so sharp.
So insightful.
So timeless.
Totally. Because he's not afraid...
to challenge the status quo.
To call out BS when he sees it.
Exactly.
And speaking of calling things out...
Oh, what's he calling out now?
He tells these stories about George and John Robards.
Who are they?
They're these two brothers that he knew.
Okay.
And their lives took very different paths.
Okay, how so?
Well, one brother ends up in poverty.
Oh, wow.
And the other has all these wild adventures out west.
So, like, totally opposite.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's using these real-life examples to explore the themes of fate and circumstance.
Like, how much control do we really have?
Yeah, over our own lives.
Over our own destinies.
And then there's the saga of the Bowen family.
The Bowen family.
Another real-life story filled with drama and tragedy.
Oh, boy, what kind of drama?
Secret marriages.
Ooh, juicy.
Financial ruin.
Classic.
Yeah, all of it.
It's all there.
And you can see how he's using these stories to reflect the anxieties of the time.
Like the social and economic anxiety.
Exactly. It's like he's saying.
What's he saying?
Look, life can be messy. Unpredictable.
Yeah.
And often unfair.
But
even in those difficult times, there's beauty and meaning to be found.
That's a powerful message.
And it's something that I think resonates with people.
Oh, absolutely.
Even today.
Yeah, we all face challenges.
I do.
Right? We all have those moments.
Yeah.
Where we feel like we're at the mercy of forces beyond our control.
Totally. And Twain's writing reminds us
that we're not alone.
We're not alone.
And those struggles.
It's like a shared human experience.
Exactly.
And his own life was full of those ups and downs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially financially.
Oh, tell me about it.
He goes from inheriting this potential fortune to working for next to nothing.
Talk about a roller coaster.
Talk about a roller coaster.
Oh, wow.
But what's remarkable is...
What's remarkable?
He never loses that sense of optimism.
Okay.
Belief that things will work out.
He's got that American spirit.
Yeah, like that grit.
The grit.
And determination to keep going.
No matter what.
No matter what.
I love that.
And that's what leads him to Olivia Langdon.
Believe it.
Their courtship is this whirlwind.
Oh, tell me about it.
Of drama and humor.
It's like something out of one of his novels.
I know, right?
So good.
And their love story.
I mean, it's captivating.
It's truly captivating.
And Olivia's influence on him.
Huge.
Huge. She becomes his editor, his confidant.
His rock.
His everything.
But their journey together isn't without heartbreak.
No, of course not.
They lose their young son, Langdon.
Oh, that's so sad.
And later, their daughter, Susie.
Heartbreaking.
And these losses hit Twain hard.
They really did.
And his writings about grief.
Oh, yeah.
They're so powerful.
Powerful and moving.
Because he doesn't shy away from the pain.
No, he goes right into it.
The rawness of it.
And in doing so, he helps us understand our own experiences with loss.
Right, because we can relate.
Absolutely.
And it's not just his own grief.
Okay.
He captures Olivia's strength, too.
Yeah.
And her resilience.
She was an amazing woman.
And how she helps him through these dark times.
Yeah, they really leaned on each other.
Yeah, and how they find a way forward together.
It's a testament to the power of love.
And partnership.
And partnership to have someone to share those burdens with.
Absolutely. But thankfully, their lives aren't all sorrow.
No, thank goodness.
They have two daughters,
Yeah.
Susie and Clara.
Okay.
And they bring so much joy and laughter back into their lives.
And laughter. I love that.
And there's this charming anecdote.
Oh, to tell me.
About Susie secretly writing a biography of her father.
No way.
When she was a little girl.
That's so cute.
It's adorable.
I love that.
And it's just this little glimpse
Yeah.
into their family life.
Into their world.
And that warmth and affection.
Between a father and his daughter.
It's so sweet.
And it speaks to Twain's ability to inspire even the youngest minds around him.
To see that softer side of him.
Yeah.
That loving father.
That's the Twain I like.
That cherishes those moments.
Yeah, those family moments.
So he's got this softer side, but he's also got
Yeah.
pretty strong opinions about stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like writing and even like
Hey,
personal hygiene.
Okay, tell me about this.
Well, he talks about his frustration
Oh.
with like amateur writers.
Right.
Comparing writing to things like
Okay, like what?
opera singing and surgery.
Wow, so high stakes.
Right. He's saying like,
Yeah.
this is serious business.
If I know what you're doing.
It's a craft.
Exactly. You can't just dabble in it.
You got to work at it.
You got to hone your skills.
And he was big on that.
Oh, yeah.
Like personal hygiene too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He had this thing about
Okay, what was this thing?
white clothes.
White clothes. Okay.
Like he always wanted to wear white.
Interesting. Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was like a way to separate himself.
Just set himself apart.
At least, like from the dirt and grime of the world.
Yeah, like almost create a visual contrast.
Yeah. Like I'm clean.
Huh?
I'm pure.
In this world, that's often messy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's a fascinating detail.
It really is.
It speaks to his personality.
He's so complex.
He was full of contradictions, wasn't he?
He really was.
I mean, this rough humorist,
Yeah.
but with this refined sense of style,
Totally.
a cynic who believed in the power of laughter,
I know, right?
a skeptic who found solace in family and love.
Yeah. He contained multitudes.
He did.
But sadly, this deep dive comes to an end
Oh, yeah.
with a loss that weighs really heavy on Twain.
Yeah. What was that?
The death of his daughter, Jean.
Jean.
And it's a moment where like all the humor and the satire just disappears.
It's stripped away.
And we're left with this
Yeah.
raw emotion.
Raw emotion of a father grieving.
It's heartbreaking.
Oh, it's so sad the way he describes it.
The details he focuses on.
I can't even imagine.
He talks about seeing her lying in her coffin.
Okay.
And she's dressed in the same clothes
Oh, wow.
that she wore as Claire's bridesmaid.
Oh, that's just
Just a few months before.
wrenching.
The contrast is just
Yeah.
so stark and so poignant.
It really is.
And he also reflects on the deaths of his wife
Uh-huh.
and his daughter Susie,
Oh,
and
right.
how their faces in death
Okay.
seem to regain a youthful beauty.
So, like, at peace.
Yeah, like peaceful.
Okay.
And it's as though he's searching for a
Well, yeah.
glimmer of hope.
Some kind of meaning.
Yeah, a way to find meaning
Yeah.
in the face of such immense loss.
Absolutely. And, I mean, even in this moment
Yeah.
of grief, his writer's mind doesn't switch off.
He's still observing.
He's still observing
Right. He's noticing the similarities
in their passing.
in their passing, the rituals,
the rituals of mourning.
the overwhelming sense of loss.
Yeah.
Like words can't even
Words can't even describe it.
capture. Yeah. And he talks about
Uh-huh.
his own struggle to come to terms with it,
Yeah.
with these losses.
I mean, how could you?
and the vow he made
Okay.
after burying his wife
What was that?
to never endure that horror again.
And yet here he is.
Here he is facing it again.
Yeah, life doesn't always play fair.
He doesn't.
Does it?
But even in the darkness,
Okay.
there's this glimmer of light.
Tell me about that.
He finds comfort in this belief
Yeah.
that the spirits of his loved ones
Okay.
bless the houses
Mhm.
they lived in.
So, like, their presence is still there.
Yeah, like they're still there
Okay.
in these sacred spaces filled with
Yeah,
memory and love.
Is it a beautiful thought?
It really
A
is.
way to keep them alive.
Even in their absence.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the power of love.
The enduring power of love.
How it transcends even death.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So as we close this deep dive
Yeah.
into Mark Twain's life and times,
Yeah.
what stands out to you?
Oh, man. Where do I even begin?
I know it's a lot.
He was a man of contradictions, wasn't he?
He was.
Full of humor
Yeah.
and heartbreak, wit and wisdom,
Totally.
skepticism and sentimentality.
He was all of it.
But through it all, he was just
Mhm.
such a keen observer of human nature.
And a master storyteller.
Oh, yeah. He could make you laugh,
Yeah.
think and feel so deeply,
All at the same time.
all at the same time.
And that's what makes him so relevant.
Even today,
Even today.
because he taps into those universal experiences.
Yeah, those things we all go through.
Love, loss, ambition,
Yeah.
failure, the search for meaning.
It doesn't matter what era you live in.
Dope.
It's the human experience.
It's what connects us all.
And his life is like this tapestry woven from joy and sorrow, laughter and tears.
Light and darkness.
And it reminds us
What does it remind us?
that our own lives,
Okay.
they may not be as extraordinary on the surface, but they're still rich.
And complex.
And complex.
We all have our stories to tell.
We do. So if you were to write your own autobiography, what stories would you tell?
What would your story be?
What moments, what experiences have shaped who you are?
It's a good question.
Think about the people.
Yeah.
The places you've been.
The lessons you've learned.
The lessons you've learned and remember.
Remember what?
Just like Twain.
Okay.
You have the power to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, the beauty in the mundane.
And the laughter in the face of adversity.
That's it.
That's the key.
Because it's those stories, those shared experiences that connect us all.
It's what makes us human.
And remind us that we're not alone.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
So go out there. Tell your stories.
Make your mark.
Make your mark on the world.
And never stop exploring.
Exploring, questioning.
Questioning, finding the humor.
The humor, the beauty. In the everyday.
That's what it's all about.
That's life.